The alarms never sounded. That is the detail no one above me ever wanted written down, and so I am the one who writes it. 9 years I ran site Marin, a research hold sunk 40 meters under moon ice at the outer edge of Threl Continuum Reach, and in 9 years I drilled my staff for one contingency only, the day the specimen decided to leave. We layered the restraint fields 3 deep. We rehearsed the breach until junior technicians could recite the lockdown order half asleep. None of it mattered. On the morning it happened, every door in the lower ring already stood open, the cell was empty, and not one alarm had thought to ring. I want to tell it from the beginning, because the ending will not make sense otherwise. We found it 9 years prior, adrift in a survey craft no larger than a transport pod, half a day inside the boundary we do not cross. Crash data put the vessel 2 months from any human lane. It should have been dead on arrival, exposure, starvation, the slow failure of a hull never built for that kind of drift. It was not dead. It was sitting upright in the wreck, conscious, watching the recovery team cut through the hatch as if it had been expecting company. Command wanted it alive, of course. Nobody crosses that boundary and survives it, and a survivor was worth more than any wreck. So we built Marin around a single occupant, triple containment, biometric locks keyed to 4 command staff only, a feeding and study schedule designed by physicians who had 3 different contingency plans for violence and none at all for what we actually got. The transport itself unsettled me before the cell ever did. Standard procedure for a recovered hostile is full restraint from extraction to delivery, limbs bound, senses dampened, a sedation field running the entire transit so nothing aboard the carrier has the chance to assess its own captors. We followed that procedure to the letter. The specimen slept through none of it. The dampening field registered as active the whole way, the specimen's eyes, when the carrier crew checked the feed out of habit more than concern, were open behind the visor the entire 11-hour transit, tracking the cabin, tracking the crew, tracking the door. Nobody mentioned it in the formal log. Everybody mentioned it privately, to me, within the first week. It never resisted. Not once, not in 9 years. It ate what we gave it, answered what it chose to answer, slept on a schedule, and within 18 months had learned enough of our written hand to leave notes correcting our translation errors in the margins of our own reports. My senior linguist resigned over that. She said it wasn't being studied. She said it was taking attendance. I told her she was imagining things, the way you tell yourself a fact you are not ready to hold. But I had seen the same. I had stood at the observation glass more nights than I can account for, watching it watch the glass back, not with fear, not with the calculating stillness of something planning a breach, but with the patient, unhurried attention of someone waiting for an appointment they already knew the hour of. We ran every assay the directorate authorized. Tissue density beyond anything in the catalog. A nervous system that registered our restraint fields the way the rest of us register weather, present, noted, irrelevant. Stress hormones that simply did not rise, not under isolation, not under the cold trials, not even on the one occasion a junior officer struck it across the face for refusing a question, an act for which he was disciplined and the specimen, when asked, declined to comment at all. There were smaller things that accumulated worse than the large ones. It began correcting our scheduling errors before we noticed them ourselves, flagging a malfunctioning air recycler 2 full days before the maintenance log would have caught it, as though it had simply been keeping its own watch over a building it did not own. It learned the names of every technician who rotated through its block and used them correctly, unprompted, while most of us still referred to it by catalog number out of some need to keep the arrangement clinical. In the 5th year it began leaving its evening meal half-finished on the same 3 days of every relay cycle, the same 3 days. We eventually realized that a senior physician with a habit of skipping his own meals worked the late shift. When I asked the physician whether he had noticed, he had not. When I asked the specimen why, it said only that hunger was a poor instrument and changed the subject. I wrote that exchange into the log word for word and then spent an unproductive month deciding what, exactly, I had just recorded. In the 7th year I petitioned to end the program. I told the directorate plainly, we are not containing this thing. We are being permitted to observe it, on terms it has not bothered to explain, and I do not trust an arrangement I cannot see the cost of. I was overruled. The data was too valuable, they said. 9 years of tissue samples, behavioral logs, a partial map of a language no continuum vessel had ever recorded firsthand. They authorized 2 more years, then ordered the program closed and the asset disposed of, quietly, before any wider authority learned what Marin Vey had been keeping. Disposal was scheduled for the morning the alarms did not ring. I was there for the transfer order myself. Protocol required command presence for asset termination, and I would not have delegated it regardless. We opened the final restraint field at 0600, the way we always had for the daily examination, the 4 of us in the room exactly as we had been 4,000 mornings before. The specimen stood. It had never needed permission to stand, it had simply, for 9 years, chosen the chair. It looked at each of us in turn. Then it walked to the inner door, and the inner door, which required a code none of us had entered, opened ahead of it. We followed because there was nothing else to do. Every door in the lower ring opened the same way, not forced, not overridden, simply unlocked a half step before it arrived, as though the building itself had decided the arrangement was concluded and saw no further use in pretending otherwise. It did not run. It did not look back. It crossed the ice flats above the hold at an unhurried walk, past a perimeter watch that swore afterward they had seen nothing, though the frost held a single clean line of prints all the way to the open dark, and then it did not. We never recovered it. We never found a trace beyond that line of prints, which the wind erased within the hour. I sent search parties out regardless, because protocol demanded it and because I could not yet admit to myself that there was nothing left to search for. They came back within the day with nothing, no transport signature in range, no heat trace beyond the perimeter, no sign that anything had crossed the open dark at all except the prints themselves, already softening at the edges by the time the patrol photographed them. 3 days later, a Continuum scout vessel assigned to the outer relay went silent on routine check-in. We found her adrift at the boundary marker, engines cold, hull untouched, every door aboard standing open the same unhurried way ours had. The crew was gone, no blood, no struggle, no forced entry anywhere in the log, no distress call recorded in the final hour, only a flight log that simply stopped mid-sentence the way a voice stops when there is no longer any need to finish the thought. On the chart table, written in our own hand, in ink drawn from our own stores, was a single line in the dialect my resigned linguist had spent 2 years teaching it. I will not render the words exactly. The meaning was plain enough: a thing does not need to escape a place it was only ever permitted to occupy. The recovery crew that boarded her reported one further detail that never made the official summary, because no one could agree on what to do with it. The vessel's own log, the automated record no hand had touched, showed the crew complement as present and accounted for at every interval up until the final entry. Whatever had happened aboard her had not registered to the ship itself as a loss. Only to us. I sealed Marin Vey myself within the month. I had the records struck from Open Archive and the program's authorization rescinded at every level I could reach, and I wrote, in the closing report no one above me wanted, the only honest line I had, we did not hold it for 9 years. It allowed us 9 years, for reasons it never explained and we were never owed, and on the morning it judged the arrangement finished, every lock we had built proved to be a courtesy. The Directorate has not authorized another containment attempt since. There has been no formal order forbidding it, only an understanding, passed from director to director the way certain understandings are, that the boundary does not yield because we are clever enough to reach inside it. It yields when it chooses to, on its own schedule, and lets us call the outcome a triumph. I still keep the closing report on my own desk, unfiled, because I want to remember exactly what we were permitted, and exactly how little of it was ours to claim.